Deck profile here for you today. This deck is quite a fun one to play. This is more focused around going second and kind of spamming the field with those Ignister monsters to build up into Firewall, Dragon, Dark Fluid, or the Arrival Cyburst at Ignister. This deck is so fun. So let's get into the build, and we'll start with the Ignister monsters. So one of the things I've seen about a lot of different Ignister builds online is they seem to play a lot of the trash Ignisters, but I feel like that's a recipe for disaster. Most of the Ignister monsters are quite bad, so really you only need, I would say, these four, and then Gatchiri is okay as well to play. But yeah, so we start with Picari at Ignister. If you normal or special summon this card, you can add one AI spell trap from your deck to your hand. Target Ignister, its level becomes 40 in this turn. So this facilitates XYZ plays and such as spells or traps. Doyon will add an Ignister in the graveyard to the hand, and then if he's used for Link Summon, you can add an AI spell back to your hand. This archetype AI is basically kind of what all their spells are called. So even though the deck is called Ignister, AI is kind of like the thing that attaches all of the different cards together, at least the spell and traps anyway. Then we've got Bururu. Bururu allows you to send an Ignister monster to the graveyard. If you use for Synchro, then you can special summon one of the materials back out. And a Chi-Chi, if it's normal special summoned, you can add an Ignister monster from your deck to your hand, and then at the start of the damage step, it has this really weird effect which I still can't figure out what the purpose is, but you can banish this card from the graveyard to destroy that monster that you control. So those are the four kind of low-level Ignisters we play, and then we also play Gatchiri. Gatchiri is quite new. I think he came out in Eternity Code, and essentially you can target a Cyberse effect monster you control, special summon, negate its effects, and then special summon this card from your hand. And if he's sent from the field to the graveyard, target one face-up monster you control. That target is unaffected by your opponent's card effects until the end of their turn. So Gatchiri is also a nice one, especially when you link off at the end for like a Firewall or whatever. You can now make that Firewall immune to your opponent's effects, which is also obviously going to be lovely. So those are the Ignister monsters we play. Then moving on to the AI spells and traps. So we only play AI Idol Reborn, which is basically a quick play monster reborn. And then it also recycles banished spells and traps. And then Ignister AI line. Now this field spell is amazing, and this is probably the best and the worst thing about this deck. It's really often, Konami does this a lot with decks, and it frustrates me quite a bit because it puts decks in this weird position where it's like, if you don't have the field spell, you have no chance with the deck. But then if you do have the field spell, it can actually do quite a bit. So essentially it does this. If you control no monsters in your main monster zone, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Ignistermon from your hand, but for the rest of this turn, you're locked into Cyburst monsters, and you can't summon monsters with the same original attribute as the one you summoned. Now, if it's in your graveyard, you can banish an Ignister monster from the graveyard to set this card. So that effect is awesome, because what it essentially means is, and it's not once per turn, you can keep special summoning monsters out of your Ignister monsters out of your hand as long as you can keep putting them in, which is great. It also adds itself back from the graveyard, which is also quite nice in case your opponent decides to ogre or whatever, because it's quite easy to get that effect. I mean, you're going to have Ignisters in your graveyard, so that's nice. However, obviously, as you can see, without this, it's almost impossible for this deck to link climb, so that's why we kind of have to play it. But anyway, yeah, it's a really, really good field spell. Moving on to the generic kind of Cyberse extenders. 3 Lady Debug, 3 Balancer Lord. They're both just really good cards, to be honest. Lady Debug obviously adding any of the small Ignisters. It only adds Bururu and Chi-Chi, so it doesn't add the 2 others. But to be honest, the Chi-Chi is the one you want to see 9 times out of 10. If not that, Picari, I guess, sometimes. But yeah, it's not too much problem. And Balancer Lord is nice because it gives you that extra normal summon, but its real effect and the real reason why it's so good in this deck is if it's banished, you can special summon one level 4 or lower monster from your hand, and it doesn't matter where it is, of course. So that's a really, really nice effect in this deck, and it really just facilitates what this deck is trying to do. Moving on from that, we then just have our kind of generic kind of extender. So we have 3 Signet Mining, a really good card, Terraforming, a Monster Reborn, and then our hand trap. So this is going to be a blind second deck. Ignisters just really can't do anything going first, and one of the big issues is they're so reliant on their field spell and the Ignister cards, and the Ignister cards aren't amazing in any other deck but Ignister. And so as a result, going first, they don't mix that well with any other Cyberse attribute. So it's really about going second and punching your opponent in the face with those big monsters. But anyway, yeah. So we're going to play 3 Nibiru, 3 Phantasme, 3 Ash, and 3 Imperm. Now, as I always say, the hand trap ratios can really vary. It depends on what you're against. It depends on what's really happening in the tournament and the format that you're going to. So that will determine what you play. But that's an okay spread, to be honest. Phantasme is particularly nice, obviously, in a going second deck like this, because it's going to get you those extra draws that you need. And you can destroy the Nibiru token relatively easy in this deck through Light Dragon, which is very easy to bring out. So let's move into the extra deck. So we start off with Lingariba, and that's going to be the main card you go into first. It's going to essentially when you normal summon one level 4 lower Cybers monster, you can go into this. If your opponent activates a trap card, you contribute this to negate it. You're not really using for that. The main reason you're using this is because it essentially allows you to get into that AI line. It allows you to fill that condition of having no monsters in your main monster zone. So you put the card in your graveyard, you've got your first link, and you can start climbing. Moving on from that, we play an IP Masquerena and a Cyburst Wicked as our link 2. Cyburst Wicked is part of the combo. I will show at the end of this the kind of general combo string you will go to kind of get to that link 5 or link 6, but anyway, you play Cyburst Wicked. Masquerena is also quite nice in this deck. It's also great because she is a cyber, so you're often going to go in something like Topologic with her. Occasionally you might go into like a Transcode or something, but generally she's going to go straight into the Topologic or into the Avramax. Moving on from that, we also play Update Jammer and Transcode Talker. These two cards are amazing. Access Code Talker is also really good. I actually have 2 Arrival Cybers for some reason. Oh no, I only have 1. I have 2 Light Dragon for some reason, but you would actually be playing the Access Code Talker package because Access Code Talker is really good in this deck. So you obviously are going to go from your Update Jammer into your Transcode Talker is the Access Code Talker, and just ping your opponent twice in the face with big ass Access Code Talker. That's also popped a lot of your opponent's cards. What is nice is you do have 1 or 2 attribute of link monsters, which is nice, so you can get a couple of pops off the Access Code Talker. Moving on from that, the really good monster, and this is the main reason that allows them to kind of climb crazily, Dark Templar at Ignister. So when a monster special summons to the zone this card points to, even do the damage step, you can special summon as many level 4 or lower Ignister monsters from your graveyard to zones this card points to, but the effects are negated. And if this card destroys a monster by battle, you can special summon a Cyburst monster from your graveyard. So it's mainly that first effect, the ability to just bring out, you're only actually going to be able to bring out 2, obviously, because when you special summon 1, you're going to block off one of the zones, so you can only bring out 2 more. But this really just makes it free to get up into that link 5 and link 6. Dark Templar is such a great card. You probably don't need him at more than 2. I mean, at 3 I'd say it's a bit risky. I'd rather take him down to 2 and then have more space for other techs in my extra deck. Moving on from that, we have Access Code Talker as our link 4s, 1 Access Code, 1 Topologic, 1 Mech Knight, 1 Dark Fluid, and 1 Arrival. Now, I have a big spread. I don't usually go for as big a spread of high link monsters, but again, like I said, this deck is so good at climbing that it's really just about hitting those high link monsters and having one for every situation. So obviously your main OTK machine is going to be either your Access Code that's been pumped up by your Transcode, or sometimes you're going to have just a Firewall, because Firewall obviously can get a massive amount of attack depending on how many different monsters you use to summon it. Then on top of that, you have the Arrival Cybers at Ignister, which is just a nice big beat stick to have in the field. This monster, you're generally going to bring him out in kind of protracted game states where it's like the game's been going on for a really long time and you want to bring out something that your opponent has already used all the resources, so they're not going to be able to do it. So that's when you're going to bring out the Arrival. Avramax is a nice out just to general monsters, and then you have your Topologic for specific matchups, things like Orcas and stuff that just can't deal with not having the extra monster zones at all. That is a really good card for it. Then we play 1 Light Dragon at Ignister, a really good, this is budget Dengirsu, it's such a nice card to be honest. And then we have Wind Pegasus, which is also quite nice for destroying back row that I don't always go into him. If I do go into him, it's 9 times out of 10 just so that I can make my Firewall on my Arrival stronger, as opposed to actually going into him for his effect. So that is the main and extra deck. Now moving into the side decks. My side deck's slightly different. I do play 3 No Material. I really like No Material this format. I had an idea before that No Material might not be too bad, especially with the new Zexal plays that we're seeing. It is very specific hand trap, but in certain matchups it completely stops your opponent's turn, which is lovely. So I have started playing 3 No Material. It was great. You just hit the Hulk Firebrax, they can't combo anymore. Hit one of the Numerons, they no longer can go into their Zexal. It's just a nice card to have in general. Then we play 3 Lightning Storm, 3 evenly matched. These 2 is generally what you're going to be doing games 2 and 3. So how it works with going second decks is what you're going to want to do is game 1, it's more about figuring out what your opponent's playing, figuring out their strategy. Then from there you can decide whether you need more board breakers. So do you need more monster board breakers? Well, then you're going to decide in the Dark Crew, the Lightning Storm, and the Evenly. Do you need more spell and traps? Then you're going to decide in the Lightning Storm, Evenly, and the Twin Twisters. So it's really about figuring out what your opponent is doing, what they can't live without essentially, and then siding in for that in games 2 and 3. So guys, I'm going to go into a quick combo just to show you the standard way you get up to those link 5 and link 6s with Ignisters. So obviously we're going to start off with the activation of Ignesta AI line. That card is amazing. It's going to facilitate all our plays. Balance Lord to get the extra normal summon. It's not going to be completely necessary, but you will see I will use it during this combat at some point. And then we go into Lingaribo and we just start abusing Ignesta AI land, which is going to let us keep summoning for free. So a Chi-Chi is going to allow us to search our first one, and we're going to get Baruru so we can send Doyon to the graveyard later. Then we're going to go into Cyburst Wicked. Cyburst Wicked is going to search Baruru in case we needed to search it. It's going to search it, so we didn't actually need searching in the first place, so it makes no difference to be honest. Baruru is now going to send Doyon. We're going to banish the Balancer Lord from our graveyard, and that is also going to get us another summon. This is what I was saying, that the Balancer Lord special summon, extra normal summon, isn't what makes it so good for this deck in my opinion. The real strength comes from that ability to combo with Cyber so it can give you an extra special summon, because it essentially means that you don't need to worry about having 2 Ignistas in your hand that you can't deal with, or if you mess up your zones, you can still carry on playing because you're going to get a free summon from that. The Picari is going to add the AI Idol Reborn, which is going to be very important later for bringing back that Doyon and triggering our Dark Templar. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to activate the AI Idol Reborn, bring Doyon out. Doyon is also going to allow us to recycle our Chi-Chi, and this is again what I'm talking about where it comes to the strength of this archetype, is really the ability to kind of link climb for free with that field spell, but also to recycle resources very easily. I mean, I could have chosen to recycle an extra Ignis I've had used it already as well, so that's really a good part of this deck. You do have some longevity, you're not just going to be screwed after blowing all of your cards in your first combo. But yeah, so I'm going to now choose 2 more Ignistas to summon, and then at this stage you could go into the Arrival, but I think I'll show Firewall just to show you the example of that you can actually do Firewall instead by going first into that Wind Pegasus so you can put more Cyburst types in your graveyard, and then Wind Pegasus is going to activate and bring out my Picari again. So here I go, I summon my Wind Pegasus, Baruru is going to activate, Picari is going to come out, and then I can XYZ summon into Light Dragon at Ignista, which is also going to be great because then now I can go into my Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid with this. It's going to have 2 counters, so it has 2 negates, and it's going to gain 5,000 attack during the battle phase. There aren't many monsters who can deal with a 7.3k or 8,000 damage Firewall Dragon. I mean, I don't know many decks that are going to be able to deal with that easily. So yeah, there we go. That is the standard kind of combo you'll be going to. Guys, if you enjoyed this Ignista deck profile, be sure to leave a like, comment, let me know what you want to see next, and be sure to subscribe to my channel. I've got a lot of deck profiles coming over the next few days. Daily uploads, guys, daily uploads. I'll talk to you all soon. Peace.